You do not need a more productive morning. You need a more meaningful one. Because the problem is not always that you are lazy, distracted, or undisciplined. Sometimes the real problem is much deeper than that. Sometimes your days are moving too fast for your soul to recognize them. You wake up. You reach for your phone. You check the messages. You answer the notifications. You open the laptop. You start moving. And before you even realize it, the day has already taken you. Not because you chose it, because you entered it without a threshold. That is the hidden issue. We have learned how to build routines, but many of us have forgotten how to build meaning. And those are not the same thing. A routine is useful. A ritual is intentional. A routine helps you repeat an action. A ritual helps you remember who you are while you repeat it. That difference matters more than people think. Because a life made only of routines can become efficient and emotionally flat. You can do everything right and still feel disconnected. You can stay productive and still feel like you are drifting. You can be organized on the outside and untethered on the inside. Stay with me, because in a moment I'll show you why one small symbolic action can do what 10 productivity hacks cannot. It can bring your mind back home. Modern life has taught us to worship utility. If something cannot be measured, optimized, or scheduled, we often treat it like a waste of time. We want every action to have a clear function, every moment to move us forward, every habit to produce an outcome. That sounds smart, but it also strips the emotional color out of life. When everything becomes useful, nothing feels sacred. Your coffee becomes caffeine. Your shower becomes maintenance. Your notebook becomes a task manager. Your morning becomes an efficiency problem. And slowly, without noticing, your inner world becomes dry. This is why so many people feel mentally scattered even when they are technically doing well. Their life is full of motion, but empty of symbolism. And the human mind needs symbolism. Not because it is weak, because it is human. We are not only creatures of logic. We are creatures of meaning. We do not just want to know what we are doing. We want to know why this moment matters. That is what ritual gives us. Ritual turns an ordinary action into a boundary, a signal, a message to the self. It says, now I am entering a different state. Now I am leaving chaos behind. Now I am here. That is why the morning coffee matters so much in this conversation. Coffee is not just coffee. It can be a doorway. Not because the liquid itself is magical, but because the act can become a threshold. The cup in your hands, the smell, the silence before the first sip, the few seconds where you pause before the world starts demanding things from you. Those seconds are small, but small does not mean meaningless. In fact, meaning often lives in small things that are repeated with care. The brain is always learning from repetition. It learns what is normal. It learns what comes next. It learns what signals safety, focus, and transition. When you repeat a symbolic action with awareness, your mind begins to attach a story to it. And stories organize attention. That is why a ritual can feel different from a habit even when the physical action looks the same. The habit says, do this because it helps. The ritual says, do this because it means something. One is mechanical. The other is relational. One is about efficiency. The other is about presence. And presence is what so many people are starving for. We live in a world that fragments attention every few seconds. A notification pulls you here. A tab pulls you there. A thought pulls you into the future. A memory pulls you into the past. Before long, you are everywhere except where your body actually is. This is why a ritual can be so powerful. It gives the mind a place to land. It becomes a cue, a signal, a bridge between the noise and the focus. A quiet declaration that says, this moment is mine. And the beauty of ritual is that it does not need to be dramatic to work. It only needs to be sincere. You do not need candles, expensive objects, or a perfect spiritual setup. You do not need to turn your morning into a performance. You only need one action that carries intention. Maybe you place your phone face down before you begin. Maybe you open the window and let the air in before you sit down. Maybe you pour your coffee slowly instead of rushing through it. Maybe you wash your hands before work as a way of leaving the night behind. Maybe you write one sentence by hand before the screen opens. These things may look small to the outside world, but inside, they are thresholds. They tell the nervous system that this is not just another block of time. This is a moment you are entering consciously. That is what makes rituals so different from routine. Routine repeats the body. Ritual reorients the soul. And here is something important. The useless, part of ritual is often the part that gives it power. The pause before the sip, the breath before the task, the hand on the cup, the few seconds of silence before you speak. On a productivity spreadsheet, those moments look unnecessary. They do nothing. They produce nothing. They slow you down. And that is exactly why they matter. Because they break the spell of automation. They remind you that not everything in life has to be optimized to be valuable. Some things are valuable because they create depth, not speed. This is where many people get confused. They think meaning will arrive in one grand epiphany, one perfect morning, one sudden awakening, one life-changing insight that solves everything. But that is not usually how meaning works. Meaning is built. It is not found like a lost object. It is formed through repetition, attention, and devotion. Again and again, you return to the same gesture. Again and again, you give the moment weight. Again and again, you teach your mind that this action is a signal of who you are becoming. That is how ritual rewires the brain in a very human way. Not by force, not by pressure, by association. The coffee becomes a cue for presence. The desk becomes a cue for focus. The doorway becomes a cue for transition. The notebook becomes a cue for clarity. The same small movement, repeated with intention, starts to shape the inner weather of your day. And over time, that repetition becomes identity. You are no longer just a person doing a thing. You become a person who knows how to arrive. That is a profound shift. Because a wandering mind is often not asking for more information. It is asking for a stable place to return to. And ritual can become that place. Not in a rigid way. Not in a controlling way. In a gentle, grounding way. A sacred anchor. Something in your environment that reminds you, I do not have to stay scattered. I can gather myself. I can begin again. This is especially important in a digital world that rewards constant motion. The feed never stops. The messages never stop. The pressure to answer, react, and keep up never stops. Without thresholds, your whole day can blur into one long emotional stream. You wake up in one state, and end the day in the same state, only more tired. But ritual gives shape to time. It says there is a beginning. It says there is a middle. It says there is an end. And the human spirit needs that. We need to know when something is starting. We need to know when we are inside it. We need to know when it is complete. That is why a ritual before work can change your focus. That is why a ritual after work can change your nervous system. That is why a ritual before a difficult conversation can change your presence. The action is not the whole point. The point is what the action tells your inner world. It tells you that you are not just reacting to life. You are participating in it deliberately. That changes everything. Because the deepest kind of transformation is not usually a single emotional peak. It is a pattern, a repeated return, a daily willingness to meet the same threshold with more awareness than yesterday. This is where neuroplasticity becomes more than a science word. It becomes a lived truth. What you repeat with attention becomes easier to access. What you repeat with meaning becomes part of your inner structure. What you repeat with devotion becomes a path. And slowly, the brain stops seeing the ritual as extra. It starts seeing it as necessary. Not because the brain is worshiping the object, because the brain is learning the state. That is the hidden power of symbolic action. It trains the nervous system to associate small gestures with a larger truth. For example, when you prepare your coffee in silence, you are not just making a drink. You are rehearsing presence. When you sit down and breathe before opening your laptop, you are not wasting time. You are creating a doorway into focus. When you close your notebook at the end of the day and take one deep breath, you are not being dramatic. You are teaching your system that the day is complete. These acts may seem tiny, but tiny acts repeated with awareness can shape a life more deeply than one dramatic burst of inspiration. That is the myth many people still believe. That change comes from a grand epiphany. But the truth is usually quieter. The truth is in what you return to. The truth is in what you repeat. The truth is in what you are willing to do the same way, with care, until your body starts trusting the pattern. This is why ritual can become a kind of fortress, not a wall to shut life out. A shelter that keeps your mind from being completely pulled apart by the noise around it. A small sacred structure inside a fragmented world. A way of saying, even if everything outside me is chaotic, I still know how to begin. And once you begin to live this way, you notice something important. You stop treating your most human moments like problems to solve. You stop asking how to remove all friction from your life. You start understanding that some friction is what makes a moment real. The pause, the breath, the stillness, the repetition, the intentional slowness. These are not inefficiencies. They are the architecture of meaning. The world may tell you to move faster, but your soul may be asking you to move more consciously. The world may tell you to simplify everything into pure utility, but your soul may be asking for symbolic weight. The world may tell you to optimize your morning, but your spirit may be asking you to honor it. And honoring your morning does not mean making it perfect. It means making it awake. That is the difference. Awake is better than efficient. Awake is better than rushed. Awake is better than numb. Because when you are awake, even ordinary things start to glow again. A cup of coffee becomes a threshold. A window becomes a breath. A chair becomes a place of return. A notebook becomes a space for truth. A morning becomes a beginning instead of an obstacle. That is what ritual does. It does not erase chaos forever. It teaches you how to meet chaos without losing yourself. It does not make life easier in the shallow sense. It makes life deeper in the real sense. And that is what so many people are hungry for right now. Not more hacks, not more noise, not more ways to become faster at being overwhelmed. They want a way back to themselves. So here is the invitation. Choose one small action in your day and stop treating it like a task only. Turn it into a threshold. Let it mean something. It can be your coffee. It can be your shower. It can be the moment you sit at your desk. It can be the way you close the day. It can be the breath you take before you speak. The action matters less than the awareness. Make it slow enough to be felt. Make it simple enough to repeat. Make it meaningful enough to anchor you. Because meaning is not usually discovered in a flash. It is built in the repetition of sacred attention. And once you start living this way, you may realize something beautiful. Your days are not just made of hours. They are made of moments that can either be consumed or consecrated. If this video helped you see that difference more clearly, stay close to this channel. This is where we explore the deeper patterns behind focus, meaning, healing, and transformation. If this resonated with you, subscribe so you do not miss the next one. If you found value in this message, like the video so it can reach more people who need a reminder that life is allowed to be meaningful, not just efficient. And if you know someone who has been living on autopilot, share this with them. And if you feel safe, leave a comment with one honest sentence. What small daily action could you turn into a ritual starting tomorrow?